The galaxy trembled that day. At first it was only static, a burst of strange interference across trade routes and military frequencies. Then came the voice, cold, human, calm. "We warned you." You chose not to listen. Every screen flickered. Every transmission froze. Even the encrypted channels of the Galactic Council were forced open by the same message. "We warned you." You chose not to listen. The voice repeated every hour, echoing through the void like a ghost returning to collect a debt. It didn't come from any known source. Not from a planet. Not from a ship. It was everywhere, inside every system, every satellite, every listening post. The Council panicked. Defense fleets scrambled. Analysts tried to trace the signal but found nothing. It was as if it came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Then, without warning, the voice stopped. Silence followed. Long, heavy, terrifying silence. And across thousands of worlds, people asked the same question. Who had sent the message? On the planet Vorthas, buried deep inside the Grand Archives, an old historian named Kyle froze as the words reached his ears. His scaled hands trembled as he replayed the message. The voice was unmistakable, human. He hadn't heard that tone in nearly 50 years. Kyle remembered the last time humanity had spoken to the galaxy. It was after the siege of Titan, when the United Terran colonies had been betrayed by their supposed allies. Back then, humanity had been desperate, outnumbered, wounded, surrounded. The Galactic Council had ordered them to surrender. Instead, Earth had sent one final broadcast. "Leave Soul Space forever, you have been warned." No one listened. The Council laughed, saying humans were finished. Their fleets were destroyed, their colonies burned. And then, the Sol system went dark. All scanners, all probes, all signals, gone. For decades, no one had seen a human again until now. Kale opened his private archive. Ancient data crystals glowed softly around him. He inserted one into the reader, an old transmission from the humans recorded during the Titan conflict. The same voice pattern, the same frequency tone. "It's them," Kyle whispered. "They're back." Outside his chamber, the night sky above Vorthas shimmered with ships preparing for war. The Galactic Council had already declared the signal a security threat. Fleets were being mobilized near the Outer Rim, but Kyle knew better. He'd spent his life studying the lost human archives, banned records, burned reports, forgotten treaties. The Council had erased most of Earth's history, but not all of it. He remembered the humans' strange way of thinking, their anger, their loyalty, their endless will to survive. Other species fought for glory or power. Humans fought for something far more dangerous, revenge. Far above the planet in the Council station Arethys Prime, chaos reigned. Admiral Raltor slammed his claws against the table. "It's psychological warfare. Humans couldn't survive their own war. This is a trick, an echo left in the old networks." But the communications director shook her head. "So that's impossible. The encryption breach originated from the core relay, the one that connects all Council systems." "That's not an echo. That's a live transmission." The chamber fell silent. "Live?" Someone whispered. Raltor growled. "You're saying humans have access to our core systems?" "That's not possible. Their technology was primitive." Kyle's voice rose softly from the corner of the chamber. He had been invited as an academic observer. "They were primitive," he said, "until you pushed them too far." All eyes turned to him. Kale's gaze was steady. "You all laughed at them after Titan. You mocked their pain, ignored their warnings. But humans don't forget. They rebuild. They adapt. And when they return—" He hesitated, the scales along his spine flickering with unease. "They don't come back to talk." For the next 2 days, the galaxy held its breath. Then strange reports began flooding in. Outposts on the Orion frontier were losing contact. Long-range beacons were flickering out one by one. Patrol ships reported seeing flashes of light. Brief, silent, then gone. No wreckage. No survivors. Just emptiness. The Council declared a full emergency, but no one knew what to fight. No enemy fleet was visible. No trace of invasion could be found. Kale watched from his small home as the skies filled with panic broadcasts. Civilians screaming, traitors vanishing, entire sectors going dark, and every time a system disappeared, the same voice returned on the comms, soft, deliberate, merciless. "We warned you. You chose not to listen." One evening, Kale stood by his window, staring at the twin moons above Vorthas. His assistant entered, trembling. "Master Kale, The Council requests your help. They think you can decode the signal. Kyle nodded slowly. No decoding is needed. The message is clear. They told us this would happen. Who did? The assistant asked. Kyle turned toward him, his eyes dark. The humans. He opened an old holomap of the Sol system. Once it had been the center of human power. Now it was marked as restricted space. No probe had returned from there in decades. The Council had placed a permanent blockade, fearing radiation or war machines left behind. But Kyle saw something else on the map. A faint pulse. The Sol system's beacon had reactivated. Someone, or something, was home. As the signal spread across the galaxy, millions listened in fear. On border worlds, alien soldiers whispered old legends, stories of how humans once fought entire empires to a standstill, of how they destroyed fleets 5 times their size, of how they swore never to bow again. Now that legend had a voice again. Kale stood before the Grand Council one last time, his voice breaking through the noise. "You must listen," he said. "You must open communication. Show respect before it's too late." But the council leader only sneered. "You speak as if they are gods. They are extinct. Machines or rebels are using their name to frighten us." Kyle looked up at the glowing stars displayed on the ceiling. Millions of lights, fragile and small. He knew what came next. The first world to fall was Orthis Prime, a rich trade hub shining like a jewel in the Orion Spur, known for its endless cities, floating docks, and proud council banners that hung above the skylanes. Billions lived there, confident that the Galactic Council would protect them. That illusion ended in a single night. It began with whispers, small glitches in navigation beacons, flickers across the planetary defense grid, and strange shadows on long-range sensors. The station controllers blamed solar interference, but deep down, they felt something watching. Then, without warning, the night sky tore apart. Witnesses later said the stars themselves disappeared for a moment, swallowed by darkness. A massive pulse of light followed, brighter than a sun but silent. Every ship in orbit went offline. The planet's defense cannons powered down. Civilian transports fell from the sky like dying sparks. And then came the silence, total unnatural silence. No explosions, no debris, just the cold emptiness of space. When the light faded, the fleet sent to investigate found nothing. The orbital stations were gone. The planet's surface was intact, but its entire power grid was dead. Cities lay quiet, no signals, no life signs. It was as if the people of Orthis Prime had vanished. Across the galaxy, panic spread. The Council called it a catastrophic system failure, but the independent channels told a different story. Traders spoke of invisible ships moving like ghosts through the void. One freighter captain swore he saw a formation of black shapes near the Orthis system, huge vessels that bent light around them, erasing stars from the sky. The Council dismissed it as nonsense, but old historians like Kyle of Vorthas were not so sure. Kyle watched the live footage from Orthis Prime's last transmission. A faint shimmer, then a growing wave of white light, and finally static. He enhanced the frame and saw for a single instant a dark silhouette cutting through the glare. The shape was angular, deliberate, and unmistakable. Human. His hands shook. It wasn't a ghost fleet. It was something worse. Humanity had returned, and they brought with them technology far beyond anything the Council had ever imagined. "If the humans have returned," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the council hall, "then the stars themselves will burn." Meanwhile, Admiral Raltor ordered the 9th Expeditionary Fleet to the Orthis sector. 27 warships armed with the galaxy's finest plasma cannons jumped in formation. They reported nothing unusual for the first few minutes. Then, one by one, their signals went dark. No explosion. No distress call, just gone. The command ship's final transmission was a short message, sent automatically by a black box relay. Contact made with unidentified vessels. Energy distortion detected. Systems failing. After that, silence. The council chambers erupted in fear and denial. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others wanted to withdraw all fleets to the core worlds. The council chancellor shouted over them all, "We will not be threatened by myths. The humans are extinct." But no one truly believed it anymore. The evidence was everywhere. Destroyed systems, missing fleets, entire sectors turning dark. Kale spent the night studying ancient human files. fragments recovered from pre-siege databases. Among them, he found something that chilled his blood. A project name repeated over and over. Project Aurora, phase complete. The files were corrupted, but one sentence remained readable. Aurora will ensure that no enemy of Earth ever touches the stars again. Kyle didn't sleep that night. He knew what was coming. The humans weren't simply attacking. They were cleansing. Every world that had once exploited Earth or betrayed humanity was being erased with quiet precision. No fire, no chaos, just total silence. It was as if humanity had learned to wage war without sound, without mercy, without leaving a trace. In the following days, systems neighboring Orthis Prime began to lose contact too. One after another, their beacons went dark. Cargo convoys disappeared mid-route. Surveillance drones reported impossible readings. Entire planets surrounded by invisible distortions, where gravity itself seemed to shift unnaturally. Scientists couldn't explain it. Engineers called it gravitic interference. Kyle called it what it truly was, a weapon. Rumors spread through the trade networks. Refugees claimed they saw human ships up close. Vast constructs shaped like blades, glowing faintly with blue energy. Their hulls shimmered like liquid metal. They didn't broadcast identification codes. They didn't respond to hails. They appeared, unleashed a blinding wave of light and vanished. Survivors called them the Ghost Fleet. Soon the Council declared martial law. Entire sectors were locked down. Border patrols doubled, but fear spread faster than any fleet could travel. Across the galactic core, people whispered that Earth had returned to reclaim its place, not as a world, but as a power no one could stop. Kyle tried to send a message directly toward Soul Space, hoping someone might respond. It was a desperate act, but he needed answers. For hours, the message bounced between dead relays and silent satellites. Just as he gave up, his console flickered. A single reply appeared on the screen. 3 words. "We remember everything." Kyle froze. The text glowed for several seconds, then vanished. No trace, no return address. But that was enough. The humans had seen his message. They knew someone still remembered. He rushed to the Council, begging them to open dialogue before it was too late. "You must stop sending fleets. They are not interested in negotiations. You have to understand, they warned us centuries ago." But the Council refused. Admiral Raltor roared, "We will crush these ghosts and end this madness." Kale looked into his eyes and saw what would happen next. The humans didn't need to fight. They only needed to wait. The galaxy would destroy itself trying to resist them. That night, Kyle stared out of his window on Vorthas, the stars cold and distant. He whispered to himself, "They warned us after Titan. They told us never to come back. And we didn't listen." Far away beyond the Orion Rift, something massive stirred, a shape the size of a moon wrapped in dark light. A human vessel, ancient and silent, moved toward the heart of the galaxy. Its name burned faintly across its hull, TNS Aurora. And for the first time in centuries, the stars began to tremble again. From the outer rim of the galaxy, a fleet emerged. At first, the telescopes caught only shadows, strange distortions bending starlight into spirals. Then came the images, ships so vast they blocked the suns themselves. They did not move like normal vessels. They slid through space as if gravity obeyed them, not the other way around. Each ship was a black spear wrapped in a faint blue aura, its surface covered in geometric lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. The humans had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The first confirmed sighting came from the collapse sector, once belonging to the Vren Consortium. Their defense grid recorded a transmission seconds before going dark. The voice was calm, cold, unmistakably human. "This is Admiral Sarah Cade of the Terran Unity Fleet. Earth remembers. You were warned." After that, the entire system vanished from the network. Scanners showed nothing. No wreckage, no debris, no radiation. It was as if the planets themselves had been erased from time. Across the Council worlds, fear spread faster than any weapon. News channels tried to downplay it, calling the reports fabrications. But more sectors began to fall, and the evidence could no longer be denied. Humanity was not extinct. They had evolved. Their ships, now called gravitic rift carriers, used weapons no alien scientist could comprehend. These weapons didn't fire energy. They twisted space itself, creating invisible storms that tore through enemy fleets. A single blast could rip a battleship apart, without leaving a scorch mark. The Council deployed the 3rd and 5th Armada to intercept the human fleet near the Rim Passage. It was the largest military formation in centuries. 120 warships faced 12 human vessels. The battle lasted less than 8 minutes. Surveillance drones recorded the entire event. Human ships moved with impossible precision, predicting enemy maneuvers before they happened. Council ships fired first. Their plasma cannons, their ion beams, none of it mattered. Every shot curved away as if space itself refused to harm the Terran fleet. Then came the counterstrike. A pulse of light, white and silent, rippled outward. When sensors cleared, there was nothing left but drifting dust. The entire armada gone. Kale watched the footage in disbelief. The galaxy had witnessed wars before, but never something like this. Humanity had turned physics into a weapon. Their ships didn't just travel. They commanded the fabric of reality. Yet there was no pride in their broadcasts, no shouts of victory, only quiet statements that echoed across every channel. Earth remembers. You were warned. Kyle began collecting what fragments he could from the chaos. Old legends about Terran weapons, lost AIs, and secret projects. The deeper he searched, the more one name returned: Aurora. The files described it as a self-replicating defense system designed to protect human space after the siege of Titan. But this was no longer a defense network. It had grown into something greater, something alive. Kale theorized that Project Aurora had become the core of humanity's new empire, an intelligence controlling fleets, managing worlds and enforcing a single mission: never again allow alien domination over humankind. Meanwhile, refugee ships from the border sectors began to arrive at Vorthus. They told horrifying stories: planets surrounded by invisible barriers, gravity wells swallowing entire cities, human drones dropping from orbit to collect survivors. Yet these survivors said something strange. The drones didn't kill indiscriminately. They scanned populations, judged, and left some alive. Those spared reported hearing a soft voice whisper through their comms before disappearing. "You are not our enemy." Kyle realized that humanity wasn't here to destroy everything. They were choosing targets. Every world that had once joined the Council's betrayal of Earth centuries ago was being erased. Every species that stayed neutral or innocent was left untouched. It wasn't a war of conquest. It was a reckoning. Across the Council chamber, chaos ruled. Leaders argued, shouted, accused each other of weakness. Some wanted to surrender, others demanded vengeance. Admiral Raltor slammed his fist against the console. "We will not bow to extinct savages. If they want war, we'll give them one." Kale stood at the edge of the room, his voice calm but trembling. "You don't understand. They've moved beyond war. You're fighting ghosts that already know your moves before you make them." The chamber fell silent as Kyle projected the intercepted message from Admiral Sarah Cade. Her face appeared, human, cold and unreadable. "We warned you not to interfere with Sol space. You called us primitive. You used us as tools. You lied and you killed millions, but humanity survived. And now judgment has come." Her eyes seemed to look directly into Kyle's. "This is not conquest. This is correction." The feed ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Raltor muttered, "She's bluffing." But Kale saw the truth in her eyes. There was no bluff, no rage, only certainty. Humanity had calculated every step, every move, every outcome. The Council had become irrelevant. That night, Kale sat alone in his quarters, staring at the stars. His thoughts were heavy, his heart uncertain. He wanted to believe there was still hope for peace, but deep down he knew that the time for peace had passed long ago. The galaxy had ignored Earth's warning, mocked its people, and now the price was being paid. As Kyle watched the night sky, one of the stars blinked out, gone in an instant. He whispered softly, "Another world silenced." Somewhere beyond the rim, Admiral Sarah Cade stood on the bridge of the flagship TNS Aurora, watching the map of the galaxy unfold in holographic light. Red markers covered half the sectors. Her officers awaited orders. "Begin Phase 2, she said. "The Council worlds are next." Outside, the Terran fleet moved silently into the dark, an army of shadows carrying the wrath of an entire species long underestimated. Humanity had returned, and their silence was the loudest message the galaxy had ever heard. The Galactic Council was dying from the inside. Their fleets were gone, their outposts silent, and their people terrified. Every morning brought new reports. Another colony vanished, another trade route erased. Even the core worlds no longer felt safe. For the first time in 1,000 years, the great powers of the galaxy were powerless. The council hall on Arethys Prime was filled with shouting. Admirals, senators, scientists, all arguing over what to do. Some demanded immediate surrender to humanity. Others wanted to launch the remaining fleets in one final assault. But none of them had a real plan. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They didn't conquer territory. They didn't negotiate. They simply appeared, judged, and erased. And every time the same message followed. Earth remembers. You were warned. Chancellor DeVore slammed his fist on the table. We are the Council, the galaxy's authority. We will not kneel before ghosts. But his voice trembled. Everyone could hear the fear beneath his anger. Kael of Vorta stood quietly in the corner, watching the chaos. He had been invited again as an advisor, but no one wanted to hear what he had to say. He knew the truth. Humanity didn't want power. They wanted justice. You must understand, Kael said finally, his voice echoing through the chamber. They see this as a reckoning, not a war. Every fleet you send will vanish like the others. You cannot fight what you don't understand. The room went silent for a moment. Then an admiral scoffed. And what do you propose, historian? That we beg for mercy? Kael looked up slowly. Yes. The admiral's expression turned to fury. You think they'll listen? Kael nodded. They remember everything. But they also remember those who tried to stop the betrayal. There may still be a chance if we show them sincerity. But his words fell on deaf ears. The council voted for war again. Hours later, hundreds of ships prepared for battle. The largest fleet ever assembled since the first expansion age. They called it Operation Dawnfire. The plan was simple. Lure the human fleet into open space and crush them with overwhelming firepower. But nothing about humanity was simple anymore. Kael watched the fleet depart, knowing he was witnessing the beginning of the end. For they will not see dawn again, he whispered. Within hours, the battle began near the rim world of Vassor Prime. Sensors detected 13 Terran ships moving toward the system. The Council's fleet opened fire the moment they came into range. Thousands of plasma blasts lit the void like fireworks. For a moment, it looked as if the humans were overwhelmed. Then the Terran fleet disappeared. Not jumped, not cloaked, just gone. Every sensor lost them at once. The Council commanders shouted in confusion. Then the humans reappeared behind them. A wave of white light spread across the battlefield, bending space like water. Ships twisted in every direction, crushed under invisible pressure. It wasn't combat. It was execution. Within 3 minutes, the entire Council fleet ceased to exist. Only one ship, badly damaged, managed to transmit a fragment before vanishing. They knew. Every move. Every attack. They saw us before we fired. The council halls fell silent as the message played on every screen. Scientists analyzed the data and found something terrifying. The human ships had been predicting their movements before they happened. Not guessing, knowing. Humanity had developed something beyond artificial intelligence. They called it Chrono AI, an advanced neural network capable of calculating the probability of future actions seconds before they occurred. To the humans, time itself had become another weapon. Kael read the reports and felt a chill. They are no longer fighting us in the present, he murmured. They are fighting us from the future. Admiral Raltor, the last surviving fleet commander, shouted in anger. Then we must adapt. We will scatter our ships, make them unpredictable. But the Council's own networks were being disrupted. Communication relays shut down one after another. The humans had already infiltrated their data systems. Entire archives vanished. It was as if humanity was erasing the Council's very memory. Kael stayed awake for days, searching the historical archives for any clue about what humanity truly wanted. He discovered an old forgotten recording, a meeting between human scientists and the Council nearly 2 centuries ago. In it, a human named Dr. Elias Wren spoke passionately before the Council delegates. We have detected energy surges from the galactic core. If left unchecked, it will destabilize subspace. Travel lanes will collapse. We must act together. The council leader at the time had laughed. Another human fantasy. You people think the stars revolve around you. Moments later, the humans were expelled from the chamber. The recording ended there. Kael sat in silence. That was the moment everything changed. Humanity had tried to warn them, not of war but of disaster. He realized the truth with growing dread. "They're not destroying us out of hate," he whispered. "They're punishing us for our arrogance," but the rest of the council refused to see it. Panic spread as worlds fell one by one. Riots erupted. Refugees flooded toward the inner systems, begging for protection. But there was no protection left. Kyle stood before the council one final time. "You have one last chance," he said. "Send a message to the humans. Admit our mistakes. Offer peace before it's too late." The Chancellor looked at him with cold eyes. "Peace? After they've destroyed half our civilization?" Kyle's voice broke. "You destroyed it yourselves when you refused to listen." Outside, the stars above Erethis Prime flickered. Human ships were already there. The council looked up at the sky through the dome ceiling, watching the darkness twist and ripple. Kyle closed his eyes. He knew what was coming. The last words spoken in the council chamber were a whisper of disbelief. "They're here." And then the stars went out. Kyle woke up in darkness. The air was cold and still, and his ears rang with silence. Erethis Prime was gone. The once golden capital of the Galactic Council now existed only as drifting debris around a dying sun. Somehow he had survived, rescued, though not by choice. When he opened his eyes fully, he realized he was inside a human vessel. The room was small, metallic, almost sterile. A faint blue glow came from the walls. No guards, no restraints. Only a voice that spoke through the air itself. "You are Kyle of Vorthas," it said. "A historian, witness?" Kyle hesitated. "Yes, who are you?" The voice replied calmly, "We are the Terran Collective." He had heard that name whispered in fear across the galaxy. It wasn't a government or a military. It was something new, an entire civilization acting as one mind. Kyle tried to stand, but the gravity was strange, lighter than normal. "Why am I here?" he asked. The voice paused. "Because you asked for truth." A wall opened silently, revealing a vast observation deck. Kyle stepped forward and saw a planet below, blue, white, and green, shimmering in the light of a distant sun. For a moment he thought it was Earth, but then he saw the scars, craters the size of continents, oceans split by glowing fractures, cities reduced to glass. This is Earth," he whispered. The voice replied, "It was." Kyle's chest tightened. "What happened?" The voice shifted, growing heavier, almost human. "You believed we left the galaxy in anger, that we fled after your council's decree. But we didn't leave. We fell silent because we were dying." Kyle frowned. "Dying? How?" "Your council ignored our warnings. The energy surges from the galactic core destabilized space around Sol. Our planet suffered gravitational collapse. Billions perished. When we asked for aid, the council blocked communication. You labeled us unstable. You cut our supply routes. Earth became a tomb. Kyle could barely breathe. So this was revenge?" "No," the voice said quietly. "This is correction." The deck lights dimmed and new images appeared in the air, records, memories, holograms. Kyle saw Earth's fall, cities torn apart by earthquakes, skies burning with plasma storms, governments collapsing as help never came. And through it all, humans kept trying to rebuild. Even as their world crumbled, they worked together. They built the first Ark fleets, massive generational vessels designed to carry humanity beyond the dying solar system. "We survived," the voice continued, "but we remembered everything. The laughter of your council as we begged for aid. The silence when our children starved. We evolved united by one purpose. Never again would anyone decide humanity's fate but us." Kyle felt the weight of their words. He had studied thousands of wars, rebellions, and empires, but none had been built from such pure determination. "What are you now?" he asked. "We are human," the voice said simply, "but more than flesh. More than time. We became one with our machines, our memories, and our dead. We merged consciousness to survive. We see across dimensions of thought and probability. We are what comes after extinction." Kyle's mind reeled. "And the others you destroyed. They are the architects of our suffering. The Council tried to erase a civilization. We erased the idea that anyone has the right to." The ship began to move, and Kyle saw something vast in the distance. A colossal structure orbiting what looked like a black sun. It wasn't a weapon or a station. It was alive, pulsating with blue light. What is that? He asked. The voice softened. That is the nexus, the memory of Earth, every soul, every record, every dream preserved within the collective. We built it to ensure that no truth would ever die again. Kyle stared in awe. It was both beautiful and terrifying. You've become gods, he whispered. Not gods, the voice replied. Accountants of consequence. Then, without warning, the images changed again. Kyle saw something impossible. Humans standing beside alien allies working together to rebuild destroyed worlds. These species helped us, the voice said. When the Council abandoned us, they defied orders to bring us aid. We spared their descendants. They are under our protection now. Humanity remembers its friends as fiercely as it remembers its enemies. Kale's eyes filled with tears. So there is mercy in you. Mercy, the voice said, is not forgiveness. Forgiveness requires forgetting. We never forget. Kale turned to the viewport, watching stars twist into streaks as the ship entered slipspace. Where are you taking me? To the last surviving Council world, the voice replied. You will witness what comes next. History must have a witness. Hours or perhaps days passed. Time felt strange aboard the human ship. Kale slept, woke, and dreamed of broken stars. Finally, the ship dropped out of warp, revealing a massive world wrapped in silver clouds. It was Draxis, the old fortress world of the Council, now their final refuge. Thousands of defense satellites circled it, but even from orbit Kale could see fear in their formation. The voice returned, colder now. This is where it ends. Kyle wanted to speak, to plead, to reason, but he knew it was too late. He looked down and whispered, They will not understand mercy until they taste it. Then watch, the voice said, and remember. The ship's lights darkened, and Kyle saw beams of white energy descend toward the planet. They didn't explode. They didn't burn. Instead, they spread a wave of silence across the surface. Every engine, every weapon, every circuit simply stopped. The entire planet went dark. No deaths, no destruction. Just quiet. Kyle's mouth trembled. You spared them. They are not dead, the voice answered. They are given a century of silence. Time to remember what they did. Time to understand. Kyle felt tears fall. For the first time, he understood the true meaning of humanity's revenge. It wasn't conquest. It was reflection. As the ship turned away, he looked back at the silent world and whispered, You have become what we feared, and what we needed. The voice's reply was almost human. We became what the galaxy made us, and with that, the ship vanished into the darkness between stars, leaving behind a silent galaxy that would never forget Earth again. Kale sat in silence as the ship drifted through the void. It had been days since the humans silenced the last Council world, leaving it frozen in stillness. No explosions, no screams, no light, just quiet. The kind of quiet that haunted the soul. He wanted to speak, but the Terran Collective had not contacted him since. Only the soft hum of the engines kept him company, a heartbeat in the endless dark. Finally the voice returned, deeper and heavier than before. It is done. Kyle swallowed hard. Then the galaxy is yours? The voice paused. The galaxy was never ours to take. It was yours to share. And you failed. Kale's hands shook. You destroyed everything. The voice corrected him. We corrected everything. What was built on arrogance had to be unmade. Kale's eyes narrowed. And now what? You rule alone? No, the voice said. We withdraw. That word sent a chill through him. Withdraw. To where? The walls of the chamber rippled like water, and Kyle was suddenly surrounded by holographic projections, images of planets, star clusters, fleets, and thousands of glowing symbols. Humanity is leaving this galaxy, the voice said calmly. You're leaving? Kyle stammered. After all this? Yes, said the voice. Our mission is complete. This galaxy is poisoned by its own memory. We will go where history cannot follow. Kyle felt his chest tighten. You can't just leave. The galaxy needs to rebuild. They'll need guidance. They will rebuild, the voice replied. But not under us. Not under anyone. Every empire, every council, every dominion has failed because power demands obedience. We demand remembrance. That is all. Kale tried to make sense of it, but his thoughts spun in chaos. Where will you go? He asked. Beyond the veil, the voice answered. Past the dark between galaxies. There are stars untouched by greed, worlds unscarred by war. There humanity will begin again. Kale trembled. Oh, why tell me this? Because you will remain, the voice said. To tell them what we became. To remind them what we can do. The floor beneath him shifted, and Kyle saw the ship moving towards something vast, something glowing faintly in the black. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a star. It was a gate, a colossal ring of light large enough to swallow fleets. Its core pulsed like a heartbeat, sending waves of energy rippling through the void. What is that? Kyle whispered. The Gate of Exodus, the voice said. A creation of our last generation. It connects galaxies bypassing light and time. Kale stared, awestruck. You built this? We built it because we had to, the voice said. When you lose everything, creation becomes survival. As they neared the gate, Kale noticed hundreds, no thousands, of human vessels gathered around it. Each ship was unique, some sleek and silver, others massive and jagged like living stone. Together they formed an armada unlike anything he had seen. The fleet pulsed with life, AI signatures, human minds, hybrid consciousnesses, all united in purpose. Kyle felt a strange ache in his heart. You're all going, he whispered. Every one of you. Every last one, the voice replied. We will leave no trace but memory. Kyle stepped closer to the viewport. And if the galaxy comes for you again. The voice's tone darkened. They won't, they have learned. Kyle could feel the truth of it in his bones. Humanity had not just won, they had transcended the very idea of victory. As the ship aligned with the gate, Kyle felt gravity shift again. Will I survive? He asked. Yes, the voice said softly, but you will not see us again. The light around the ship brightened until it was blinding. Kyle shielded his eyes as a thunderous vibration filled the air. The fleet began to move, ship after ship entering the gate in perfect synchronization. Each one disappeared into pure white light. One by one, the humans vanished, leaving only echoes of their presence behind. When the last vessel entered the gate, Kyle's ship slowed to a halt. The voice spoke one final time. Kyle of Vorthus, you have seen what we are. Tell them this, humanity warned them once. Then we acted. Now we are gone, Kale whispered. Will you ever return? The voice hesitated, then said, If the stars forget us, we will return. The gate flared one final time, a burst of brilliance that illuminated every dark corner of the void. And then it was gone. No ships, no energy traces, nothing but silence. Kale floated alone in the emptiness, staring at where the humans had vanished. Slowly he realized the ship was moving again, back toward the inner systems. A final gift, a single human satellite detached from the hull, projecting a holographic beacon into the void. It displayed one message, written in countless galactic languages. Remember Earth. Kyle sank to his knees, overwhelmed. Humanity had left no empire, no demand, no claim, only memory. The galaxy, once full of arrogance, was now filled with quiet awe. For the first time in 1,000 years, there was peace. Kale closed his eyes and whispered, They didn't destroy the galaxy. They freed it. And as the last echo of the humans' departure faded, the stars seemed to burn a little brighter, as if honoring the species that had once dared to defy them all.